Hello everyone, my name is Nitish Das, and today I want to discuss something very urgent. We are living in a world where plastic, this convenient artificially made miracle material that has consumed our lives every day, has slowly become a global threat. Plastic is in the water we drink, the food we eat, and the air we breathe, and even inside of our own bodies. This isn't just about recycling plastic, it's about how a poorly regulated industry, weak laws, and our society's addiction to convenience have created a plague of plastic that is harming our planet and ourselves. Let's start at the very beginning. There's no denying that plastics have revolutionized the way we live today. Plastic is cheap, durable, and widely used in just about everything from packaging to medicine to electronics. But with that innovation is a cycle that starts with fossil fuel extraction and ends in pollution that will never go away. During every step of the process, from when the fossil fuel is extracted to when the plastic waste is disposed of, our environment is exposed to more and more harmful pollution. So as we can see here, these single-use syringes are very useful in the medical industry, obviously, but at the same time, we are overusing plastic. A reusable bag would get the job done just as well as this plastic one, but the plastic one is more convenient at the cost of the marine ecosystems, as we see here with this turtle suffering. We created plastic for its convenience, but now it's one of our most persistent environmental problems. Plastic pollution is no longer something we only see in just landfills or the depths of the ocean. Plastic can be found virtually everywhere. Plastic and microplastics have been found in soil and crops, freshwater, deep sea Arctic ice, even mountain tops and rainfall. According to Beta Shimwa and others, plastic waste in ecosystems is expected to nearly double in the next 15 years, which is really scary to think about when you look at this chart on the right. So in 2024, last year, we produced 400 million tons of plastic waste in the world. If that number is to double, that would be 800 million tons of plastic waste in the next 15 years. Furthermore, 155.9 million tons of that 400 million is just in packaging, which is definitely something we can work on reducing with government intervention. So, how exactly is plastic damaging the environment if it's just sitting there? First off, the plastic industry is responsible for around 3.4% of all global greenhouse gas emissions, with 90% of those emissions coming from its manufacturing alone. As we can see here in this diagram, 61% of the greenhouse gases emitted by plastic production is from its early stages when it's first made, when the fossil fuel is extracted and the resin is produced. So this process totally produced around 1,085 megatons of CO2, which is a ridiculously unfathomable number. A megaton is a million tons, just for example. Moving forward, microplastics in the ocean disrupt algae growth. Algae isn't just a plant that grows underwater, it's the base of the entire marine food chain. So when algae suffers, everything above it in the chain will also collapse. Plastic doesn't just choke sea turtles and fish like the ads show you. Plastic actually starves ecosystems from the bottom up. And yeah, there's a lot of microplastics in the water, but that's not all. This chart does show that the surface ocean has around 600,000 tons of microplastics as of 2020, which that number has only grown since then, but it's also in the air above the water as well. According to a study from South Korea by Lee and others, they found 0.45 to 6.64 microplastic particles per cubic meter of air in South Korea. South Korea is not particularly a super polluted country, so there are more countries that have even more pollution than that. Indoors or outdoors, it doesn't matter where you are, every breath that you take may carry microscopic fragments of plastic. You can't see this pollution, but it's there waiting to enter your lungs. So since it's inside us, how much of it is inside us? So a study by Beta Shimwa showed that humans now consume between zero point 0.1 and 5 grams of plastic per week. Just to put that in perspective, that amount at its worst could be roughly the size of a credit card swallowed every 7 days. These particles will make their way into our lungs, liver, bloodstream, and even our brains. And microplastics under 100 nanometers in size can actually get to every single organ in the human body undeterred. So as we can see here, microplastics have been found in people's brains, their circulatory system and respiratory system, their digestive system, skin, and even the breast milk that we feed to our children. We don't just use plastic, but our bodies are in fact becoming more and more plastic every single year. What does this plastic in our bodies do for our health? What we do know so far is that microplastics and plastics contain dangerous chemicals like bisphenol A, aka BPA, phthalates, and flame retardants, all labeled as priority pollutants. Once these pollutants are inside the body, they've been linked to cancer, diabetes and obesity, hormonal and fertility issues, digestive disorders, neurotoxicity and cognitive damage, and more. The extent of what these chemicals can do to human bodies is still not fully understood, but that is some of what we do know. But essentially, we basically are just test subjects. Furthermore, plastic debris is also a great breeding ground for pathogenic organisms like Zika mosquitoes, dengue, and snails. So in the picture on the right, you can see in a humid environment like this with a lot of plastic around, those bottles are actually the perfect place for mosquitoes and other disease-ridden animals and creatures to spread and make more disease-ridden insects. Burning plastic is also another problem. When you burn plastic, it releases carcinogens into the air, and that will just lead to the diseases I mentioned beforehand. But why does this crisis continue? After all, many corporations have publicly pledged to reduce plastic use. What's going on? So behind the scenes, globally, corporations have actually increased their virgin plastic use by over 30% between 2010 and 2023. As we can see here, there is a small dip here around the early 2010s, between 2000 and 2010, but that was all just a facade as companies just went right back to producing more and more plastic, and we're now at record-breaking amounts of plastic production every year. 99% of plastics are sourced from virgin fossil fuels. It's a lot cheaper for these companies than recycling is. What happens when governments try to regulate this? The companies will fight back. For example, in Canada, 3 companies, Nova Chemicals, Dow, and Imperial Oil, 3 of the biggest plastic manufacturers in Canada, sued the federal government for trying to regulate plastic production. And they won. So this isn't just about our ignorance as people, it's about the companies and governments prioritizing profit over people. Who pays the price for this? While the wealthy do profit from plastic production, low and middle income countries suffer the most. If we look at this diagram here, we can see that countries like the US, Canada, the UK, many European countries, Australia, and Japan all are exporting lots of plastic waste to other countries. Those countries that I just mentioned are nicely, high income countries with great infrastructure and are able to handle this plastic waste on their own. Regardless, they still dump it off onto countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, India, Thailand, and Mexico, many of which are low-income countries with lots of pollution problems and more, and not even the right infrastructure to handle this plastic waste. So poorer nations will get it, and it's not just their ecosystems that suffer. Children will develop breathing problems due to the poisoned air. Fishermen cannot make a living off the water because the water is full of a bunch of different substances that affect the quality of the fish. Families breathe in toxic air every day. This is not just an environmental issue anymore, it's an issue of justice for the people that can't speak up for themselves. So what can we do? Whatever it is that we do, it has to start from the top. Regulations have to be enforced and production has to be limited of plastic. These corporations that get away with it every time need to be finally held accountable. By promoting sustainability, we can't stop or we can't reverse the damage that we've already done, but we can prevent as much as we can in order to ensure a nice home for our kids to grow up in. So what are things we can do? One example is enforcing a single-use plastic restriction. So instead of always having companies and businesses give out plastic straws, plastic cups, everything that you can just toss out, and create an incentive for these companies to give out bags and reusable straws and cups and have dishwashers in-house in order to not use plastic products all the time. Another thing that could help with this is a 50% consumption reduction target, while also implementing the incentives mentioned beforehand in order to make businesses more sustainable. By setting these legally binding goals for plastic and just beverage packaging, we can give companies an incentive to use reusable drinking products as well. Also, incentives that I mentioned beforehand are very important because it makes the barriers of entry for small businesses less. Right now, as it is, a small business selling some tacos somewhere may not be able to afford to have dishes and everything if they're primarily just a takeout business. But with the advent of helping companies with dish cleaning, collection vehicle prices, and more, the barrier of entry is reduced and small businesses can thrive while still being sustainable. We can't reverse the past, but we can prevent as much damage as we possibly can. So the truth is, plastics are in the soil, the ocean, icebergs, our food, the air we breathe in, and in our bodies. This crisis affects us not only ecologically, but economically and biologically. Reducing dependence on fossil fuels is not only the best choice for humanity, it is our only choice. The time to act is now. Thank you.